There is no greater insult to a man's worth than to be willfully ignored, and yet there is no greater power than to remain unmoved by it. A Stoic does not chase what flees, nor beg what turns its back. Instead, he teaches, through silence, through strength, through absence, what his presence once gave freely. Let her ignore you. Let her test your value with absence. But know this: the true power lies not in her reaction, but in yours. To teach her the price of ignoring you, you must first become a man whose presence is a privilege, not a plea. When a woman begins to ignore you, it can stir the ego, awaken doubt, and tempt you to prove your worth. But a Stoic man does not move at the command of emotion. He does not allow another's silence to unseat his sense of self. In the face of being ignored, he resists the urge to react impulsively. He understands that validation from others, no matter how desirable, cannot be the foundation of his identity. A man who chases after approval has already given away his power. The world is full of men who lose their dignity in pursuit of attention. They send desperate messages, make unnecessary calls, and mold their actions to please someone who has withdrawn. But such behavior does not breed respect. It reveals weakness, neediness, and a lack of internal control. Stoicism teaches the opposite. The man who is rooted in virtue, in self-mastery, knows that being ignored is not a threat. It is a test. And only the man who remains composed and grounded passes it. To not chase is not to be cold. It is to show that your worth is independent of external recognition. If someone chooses to turn away, you let them go. You do not flinch. You do not beg. You continue on your path, focused, disciplined, and undisturbed. In this posture, you show that your time and attention are not freely surrendered to those who do not value them. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. When a woman sees a man who is unaffected by being ignored, who remains calm and confident in his presence, she begins to understand that his value does not come from her approval. And in that realization, the balance of power shifts, not through force but through the quiet strength of a man who does not chase. Explain key point 2 into 300 words and don't mention subheadings. ChatGPT said, "There is immense power in stillness, in choosing not to react. When someone expects you to, in a world addicted to attention and validation, indifference becomes a language of strength. When someone ignores you, the natural impulse is to respond, to demand answers, to reclaim your place in their awareness. But the Stoic man knows that words spoken in desperation carry no weight. Instead, he lets his silence speak. Indifference, when rooted in self-control and clarity, sends a message far more potent than argument or pleading. It shows that you are not dependent on external validation for your sense of worth. You do not reward disrespect with more effort. You do not beg to be seen. You become a mirror, reflecting their behavior back at them, forcing them to sit with the absence of your energy. In that void, they feel the impact of what they once had and now lack. This kind of response isn't about manipulation, it's about discipline. It is about refusing to be reactive, about honoring your peace over your pride. It is the mature decision to remove yourself from emotional chaos rather than contribute to it. When you remain indifferent, you maintain control over yourself, and that is the true essence of power. Women, like all people, are drawn to strength. Not loud, aggressive displays, but the quiet strength of a man who knows who he is and will not be shaken. Your lack of response becomes your boundary. It shows that you will not fight for a place in someone's life who chooses to ignore your presence. This calm indifference does not go unnoticed. It lingers. It forces reflection. And often, it brings more clarity than any confrontation ever could. In the stillness of your silence, you teach the value of your attention. When your presence has real value, your absence becomes noticeable. Most men fear walking away, afraid that doing so will close the door permanently. But the Stoic man understands a deeper truth. Absence can be the most powerful teacher. If you have shown genuine character, discipline, kindness, and strength, in a relationship, removing yourself is not abandonment. It is a quiet statement that your energy is not to be wasted where it is unappreciated. Often, when a woman begins to ignore you, It is not always from malice. It can be a test, a moment of confusion, or even a reaction to her own internal struggle. But the wrong response, chasing, pleading, or acting emotionally, only confirms what she subconsciously fears, that you are dependent on her recognition. By stepping back, by allowing your absence to speak, you give her space to truly evaluate what your presence meant. A man who knows his worth does not argue for it. He simply lives in accordance with it. His absence is not silent out of spite. It is dignified. It says, I will not compete for your attention because I know what I offer. If she values you, that space will bring clarity. If she does not, that too is clarity, and a gift in disguise. This is not a tactic. It is not a manipulation. It is a discipline. To walk away when you are being undervalued requires more strength than staying, and it builds in you a deeper sense of self-respect. Eventually, those who ignored you will either come to recognize the weight of your absence or fade into the background where they belong. Either outcome serves your peace. Through absence, you teach not by punishment but by principle, an unshakable pillar of the Stoic path. The Stoic man never negotiates his core values for temporary affection. When a woman ignores you, it's easy to fall into the trap of proving your worth through action, doing more, compromising more, and bending your standards in the hope of regaining her attention. But this is the exact moment when you must stand firm. A man who lowers his boundaries to be liked slowly loses the respect of both himself and others. He becomes forgettable, common, and disposable. Strength of character is forged in moments of testing. When your values are challenged, your response defines you. If you say you demand respect but tolerate disrespect, then your words are meaningless. If you say you want a meaningful connection but accept crumbs of attention, then you reveal your own lack of self-regard. The Stoic understands that boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are gates that filter who is worthy to enter. A woman will subconsciously test a man's standards, not always out of cruelty, but to understand the kind of man he is. When you fail to hold your line, when you allow neglect, silence, or disrespect to pass without consequence, you teach her that you can be molded, that your values are negotiable. But when you hold to your standards, calmly and without resentment, you demonstrate that you value yourself more than fleeting approval. True respect comes when a woman sees a man who cannot be moved from his principles. He doesn't shout. He doesn't plead. He simply walks away from anything that does not align with his self-respect. And in doing so, he becomes the kind of man who is not only noticed, but remembered. Because dignity, once revealed, is unforgettable. And it is that quiet, unshakable integrity that commands true respect. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of power. When used with discipline, it communicates more than words ever could. In a world where everyone is quick to speak, to defend, to react, choosing silence sets a man apart. When a woman ignores you, your instinct might be to question her, to seek closure, or to make your presence felt through words. But the Stoic understands that true power lies in restraint. He does not rush to explain himself or demand answers. He lets silence reveal the truth. Silence forces reflection. When you do not chase, when you do not justify, you create a void that others must sit with. That absence, calm, composed, and without bitterness, causes people to wonder. They ask themselves why you didn't react, why you simply let go. In that stillness, they begin to feel the weight of your absence. It's in that space where realization often dawns, not because you pushed, but because you stepped back. The man who can remain silent is the man who owns his emotions. He does not give others the satisfaction of controlling his state of mind. He does not waste energy trying to fix what is outside his control. Instead, he focuses inward, preserving his peace, protecting his focus. Silence becomes his shield. It keeps his dignity intact and allows him to observe, reflect, and act with wisdom rather than impulse. Women respect men who can walk away without a scene, who can stay composed under pressure, Who can maintain their direction without external validation? When she ignores you, don't fight to be seen. Let your silence do what noise never could. Let it speak of your strength, your discipline, and your refusal to beg for what should be freely given, respect and attention.